Joining us right now on everything going down with the San Francisco 49ers in advance of a revisiting with the Kansas City Chiefs, NBC Sports Bay Area, Matt Maiocco back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well. It's Chiefs week, and yeah, that locker room's a little bit different this week because it brings back some bad memories.
Yeah, I know. Fred Warner kind of doesn't even want to talk about it, right? He's like, we're turning the page. Don't let's not. It's different team, different year. But I imagine it still lingers, right, Matt?
Oh, there's no question about it. Yeah, it lingers. And I think the point that Kyle Shanahan is trying to impress upon the locker room is that, nothing changes as far as trying to dial it back from, the second Sunday of February last year. And, Trent Williams says it's another game. There's that ship has sailed as far as the Super Bowl. And so what they're really trying to do is just kind of keep it in the moment. And in the moment is that the 49ers are 3-3. They're far below expectations at this point, losing a couple of division games that they shouldn't have lost, letting big leads slip away in the second half, which I guess with the Chiefs coming to town, that brings back even more bad memories, of course. But, it really is about, at the end of Sunday, they're either going to be 4-3 or 3-4. And that's kind of the focus because if they walk off the field at Levi Stadium on Sunday, no one's giving them a trophy. It really is another game when you kind of boil it down to that kind of basic premise.
Well, it just seems to me, from my position here, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that this is just like a long runway left in the season, and who they are now and what they are now is not what they hope to be, even with a win over the Chiefs later on this season, because McCaffrey's out and other parts of this team that we haven't seen yet, and Ricky Pearsall, we don't know who this team really is just yet. Is that a fair assessment of the Niners right now, Matt?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that, there aren't very many teams that kind of understand that. Obviously, the Chiefs do, but, a team in the NFL in September and October could be completely different than what that team is in November and December and theoretically January as well. And I'll even throw another name at you, Dre Greenlaw. When Dre
Yep.
Greenlaw tore his Achilles leaping off of the sideline in the second quarter of the Super Bowl, that was a huge play because he brings such a dynamic presence to that defense, teamed up with Fred Warner. So it kind of really is the long view for the 49ers. I mean, over the past 3 seasons, they've played a total of 9 extra high leverage playoff games. So, maybe the number one seed maybe that ship has sailed too when you think that the Vikings have basically a 4-game lead on the 49ers because of head to head as well. But when you look at it, 49ers know that there's a lot of season left. And with McCaffrey, with Greenlaw, with Pearsall being acclimated into the system, with them figuring some stuff out under new defensive coordinator Nick Sorensen, now I think that the focus really is on just kind of building it and using this game probably as a springboard for the rest of the season.
Well, and of course, the Niners have the benefit of this rarity, being 3-3, 1-2 in division, but still leading the division. So that's a rarity, and they do have at least that in their back pocket going into this Super Bowl rematch. Matt Maiocco of NBC Sports Bay Area here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's dive into the injured. What's the latest on McCaffrey? When do you expect to see him?
Yeah, so the 49ers have the Chiefs this week, the Cowboys the following week, and then the bye week. I think with McCaffrey, you're probably looking at that being the time where they open that practice window. He's not coming back this week. He won't be on the field. He's eligible to come off of injured reserve, but he has bilateral tendonitis, Achilles tendonitis, meaning both legs. He went to Germany for some treatment. He seems to be responding well to that, but yeah, as we just talked about, it's not about this game or the next game. They want him ready to go late in the season. And, they need him at his best. Again, assuming that they make the playoffs, they want him at his best then. In the meantime, 49ers have gotten really good production out of Jordan Mason. So, there's no big hurry to rush him back out on the field. When he comes back, they want him back for the long haul. And that's the key to this, is not to rush him back and to make sure that he's ready to go for, considerable weeks and through the rest of the season when he gets back on the field.
And what about Mason? Will he go Sunday, do you think?
It's a little iffy. He's been out at practice, limited practice. He's wearing the 49ers put a blue jersey on guys who are kind of have some physical ailments that signifies no contact. I think that's going to be kind of touch and go. He has an AC shoulder sprain, so that thing was really bothering him. He tried to get out there for one snap in the second half, and it wasn't even tackled on that play, and just decided that's not it wasn't going to work. So the 10 days off certainly is a bonus for him. I think there's a pretty good chance that he's out there based on the fact that he's on the field now and practicing, and the game is still several days away.
And then the wide receiver room banged up, right? Debo's nicked up again. Juwan Jennings didn't practice. So does this mean Ricky Pearsall now becomes a must-have for Sunday, Matt? I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, Ricky's looking good in practice, but they wanted to do kind of a slow ramp up for him. I mean, it was 8 weeks ago that he was shot through the chest, which are, words I've never said before. Right. I mean, it's crazy. And he's got his range of motion back in that right chest shoulder area. They wouldn't have to make room for him necessarily as far as how do you carve his role into the offense. With Jennings kind of being questionable for this game, he could just slide right into the number 3 spot. So it will really be determined, I think, on how he practices on Thursday, coming off of his first real practice on Wednesday, how he's feeling, how he's picking things up, how he feels physically. So Thursday and Friday will be the determining factors whether he gets a uniform. The 49ers hadn't really planned on him playing Sunday, but I know he wants to get out there. And so we'll see. The biggest voice he has is how he performs on the practice field. That'll be the one that determines what Kyle Shanahan's mindset is going into this game.
So what about Hufanga and Greenlaw, like the long term? Two stout defenders at two important levels, clearly, for this defense. Is that possible? They return in November, December? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I would say November. Like I said, after the bye week, so there's 2 more games. So Hufanga was placed on IR before the last game, so he would have to sit out 1 more game after the bye week. And then Greenlaw, he had told me that he's not coming back until he's ready to come back and he can step in and be the same player he was before he left. So his eyes really, since the Achilles surgery, was to make an impact in the playoffs and to return to the Super Bowl and have a huge impact in the Super Bowl. So that's kind of what the 49ers mindset has been from the offseason program to this point. We all know how difficult it is to get to the Super Bowl. And that's where the 49ers focus is. It's like, yeah, they're 3-3 in the division, but no one's panicking. I think they did kind of treat that game against Seattle as, Kyle Shanahan's line was, it's not a must win, but it kind of is a must win. That's what he told the players. And so they took care of business against Seattle. Like we mentioned, they're 3-3. They're atop the NFC West. They have a lot of season ahead of them, a lot of room for improvement. And then they're kind of taking the small view of this, obviously preparing for every game, but also I think the coaching staff and the medical staff and the front office taking the long view of how do you not only, win the West, get into the playoffs, but have your best team out there and playing your best football for those games that matter once the single elimination tournament starts in January.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Matt, the idea is get McCaffrey and Hufanga and Greenlaw back in time for the playoffs and win your division. If you can pop up to the 3 seed by doing that, then that's cherry on top. Otherwise, they're going to be maybe the most dangerous 4 seed, right? Or if they don't win their division, the 6-7 seed you don't want to face in the wild card round. Like is that the scenario of their NFC title defense season as we're sitting here right now, Matt?
I think so. I think when you look at the NFC, there's certainly not one team that you look at and go, oh, they're the prohibitive favorite to win this thing. as much as the 49ers wanted that bye that only goes to the number one seed, as much as they wanted home field advantage, a an advantage that they rode last year through a couple of kind of rocky games, beating the Packers coming from behind in the second half, doing the same thing, huge deficit against the Detroit Lions. I don't know that any team should feel like it's just overwhelming odds to overcome if you have to go on the road in the NFC. So I think that's where the 49ers are right now. And nobody's talking about the number one seed. So it means they're going to have to play every week of the playoffs. It means that more than likely they're going to have to win one or more road games. So I think that's kind of the mindset where this team is. But I mean, we're talking about January and it's kind of crazy to think about it. I mean, it's still so many weeks away. I mean, 11 more regular season weeks for the 49ers to figure this thing out, both offensively, defensively, and especially special teams where they've really struggled, and then get their players back so that they're a much stronger team in December than they are right now.
Last one for you, Matt. And again, you mentioned Nick Sorensen, the new defensive coordinator, taking over for Steve Wilks, who took over for DeMeco Ryans when he left for Houston, and he took over the position for a guy who's sitting at home right now. And I know I'll ask this question on behalf of a lot of my Niner fan friends. Any Robert Saleh sighting, do you think, in Santa Clara in any way, shape, or form, in any format?
I don't think this season.
Okay.
And the reason I would say that is I'm sure Robert Saleh, who's still getting well compensated by the New York Jets, probably has no desire to enter some other team's building and take on a consultant role or an advisory role. And let's remember that role is already kind of filled. When Kyle Shanahan singled out Nick Sorensen as the guy that he would promote from his staff to the defensive coordinator position, he also interviewed Brandon Staley and was very upfront and said, hey, look, you're not going to be the defensive coordinator here, but I would like you to join the team in kind of a, assistant head coach / defensive role. And so Brandon Staley, in a lot of ways, is already in the role that I think people would be envisioning for Robert Saleh. So we'll see how this season turns out. There are a lot of options down the road, including Nick Sorensen proves that he's the guy, the long-term guy going forward. But I don't think that there's a role right now for Robert Saleh, nor I don't think he would want that role right now.
Matt, thanks for the time and the information. As always, look for more of my calls. Thank you, sir.
All right, Rich. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. That's Matt Maiocco of NBC Sports Bay Area on the latest with the Niners before their big game with the Chiefs right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.